I know it's never popular, but there are seats down front. Just like in school.
Well, I'd like to welcome everybody this evening. Tonight we have double celebrations. We're celebrating our Indiana Farm Bureau employees, some an extra special award, and also our students of the month. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming in. It's become the tradition. We just spent a second just kind of reemphasizing our core values and our bedrock. And to stress tonight, having highly effective, motivated staff, and also looking at highly functional facilities and equipment. And efficient operations. Those are going to be some of the discussions we're going to have over the next 3 weeks as we move forward with our essential referendum down the road. The main reason everybody's here is to celebrate our Indiana Farm Bureau somebody extra special word. Dave, you want to come up here and join me? So this is Dave Kalaski. Is that close? I've only talked to him a zillion times, so you want to tell everybody what you do with the Indiana Farm Bureau?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We're really excited about the partnership. We manage all the offices, or I manage all the offices in Indianapolis through Farm Bureau Insurance. And we just wanted to have this partnership to be able to respond to very important what we do. So we're excited to celebrate the individuals in that and the things that they've accomplished.
Thank you. With no further ado, I'm going to read to be quick and efficient, so I won't get off task here. But our first award winner from Horner Park is Teresa. Teresa. Don't know, this is Zach Patch. I'm proud guys for Bistro High School. And I asked Teresa to keep her speech to minimum tonight. But, we had a lot of information turned in for our various award winners tonight. We'll do a close notes version of this. Teresa takes pride in all she does. Teresa is always willing to step in and help someone out. She is a dedicated art teacher, leader of our learning garden, and a caring friend to her peers. Teresa is a fun-loving, passionate leader in our building who has been so special and to so many of her colleagues and friends. And she is retiring, and she has gone above and beyond being a parent volunteer to being a teaching assistant, to getting her license, and doing a great job in the classroom, both as a mentor in many aspects. We just want to thank Teresa for her hard work and dedication. And wish her the best of luck as she moves on to the next phase of her life. So thank you very much. Tree Wolf. We're going to Melody Hamilton. South Road. Melody is our secretary, treasurer, and really the boss of South Road Community. Melody always goes the extra mile to ensure that students, teachers, and staff have everything they need to be successful. She is truly a pleasure to work with because she has such a golden heart. She is a true blessing to staff and students at South Road. And if you really want to know what's going on at South Road, please talk to Melody. So thank you for your dedication. Bgsn Middle School, Chad Man. One of the nominations for Chad is a former student. As a former student of Mr. Mann, I wanted him to know that he has touched so many people with his kindness and dependability. I do not believe I felt more respect for a teacher than I do Mr. Mann. He was not only my teacher, but a true mentor. Mr. Mann made our daughter's transition to middle school an easy one. He's very kind, compassionate, thorough, enjoys his career. Our daughter said Mr. Mann rewards students, makes the class fun, and keeps the atmosphere alive. Make sure the students have the right tools to understand and succeed. Chad, congratulations on your hard work and everything you do. Lois? I never pronounced your name very well, so I just kind of skipped it, so. I need to work on that. I do like it. So, a parent's comment. Lois always goes above and beyond in any way she can to help our son. She helps with various subjects that she doesn't understand. She's patient with him and pushes him to the best he can. She always keeps in contact with us on everything related to his education and well-being. If it wasn't for her, I believe he would not be doing as well academically and socially. She treats him as if he were one of her own children, and that is more important than anything a parent could ask for. Congratulations.
For those of you who just were presented with that, could I have you back by the, so it's where you sit down, everybody together, and I'm gonna give it.
Our students of the month.
In addition to celebrating our teachers, we'd also like to celebrate our students. And so tonight our principals will talk about their building reports, but then there's probably their favorite thing, and that's our students and our student months. So as Melanie said, with the teachers, when all the pictures or all the presentations are done, if the students would stay, we'd love to get your pictures with you, your principal, your teachers, and of course your family. So please stick around afterwards for pictures.
We'll do a group shot first, and then we'll do individualized school with principals, and then with families. So, great.
We're going to begin tonight with Dr. Walters from the high school.
Good evening, and certainly a happy May. We have a lot of things to celebrate here at the end of the year, as you all remember. I'll start with scholarship season for our seniors. We are very thankful for our community and alumni support. We'll honor them at our academic awards night this coming Wednesday on May 22nd at 7 p.m. That'll be in the auditorium. We had some really big accolades and awards these past 2 weeks. We were awarded the Varsity Brands National Coach of the Year for Emily Johnson's submission of Matt English's accomplishments. That event will actually be televised on June 15th at noon on CBS Sports Network. We also congratulate Mike Renfro and our boys basketball team for being awarded the Indy Star Sports Award Coach of the Year and Top Team in the fan vote. District Art Show, hopefully you were able to attend, was this evening, and we congratulate all of our students who have pieces in the show. The ICC art competition also just happened over a week ago, and I'm happy to share that Beach Grove took first this year. Congratulations again to students who had pieces in that competition. A few individual student accomplishments. We congratulated Shamar Gentle and Tiana Baxter for prom king and queen, and to a number of Spanish 4 and 5 and Sociedad Honoraria Hispanica graduation on May 31st at 7. And then, of course, we will end the year with commencement on June 1st at 10 a.m. At this time, if I could have Maya and Nikki join me up front. Maya is a senior this year. She's the daughter of Marissa Vanette. In her 4 years with us, she has been in National Honor Society, DECA, Student Leadership, Spanish National Honor Society, soccer, swimming, volleyball, track, and horse mentor. She's volunteered outside of school with YMCA, with Riley, and Chattanooga Keener. Maya will study public relations and political science at Ball State University. She hopes to go on to law school and work in politics to make a positive change in our society. And her teacher comment, she asked me before if she would learn who nominated her. From Miss Spangman, Maya works incredibly hard to advance in her DECA event, competing in district, first place approximately 30, state, third place approximately 50, and traveling on to internationals, competing against students all over the nation. DECA's International Career Development Conference is a 5-day competition with 5 rounds. 22,000 people came to Orlando to compete on this massive scale, coming from over 5 countries. Maya is the first student in Beach Grove history to compete at internationals. She represented the best Beach Grove has to offer against schools the size of universities, and she made me very proud to be her event.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. Mr. Deerhart from Beach Grove Middle School.
A couple of quick updates for Beach Grove Middle School. We anticipate on Friday of this week celebrating the 64 students who accomplished perfect attendance and or honor roll status. And they will be going to Beach Grove Bowl and having pizza and obviously bowl. We had our second Smart Start breakfast on May 9th, and that recognized 42 outstanding middle school students who had a positive impact on someone at Beach Grove Middle School. And we want to thank Dr. Kaiser and Mayor Buckley for attending that event. Special thanks to Mrs. Sutton for those of you that were at the art show tonight. It was absolutely fantastic and reflects tremendous hours of work on our art teachers' part. So thanks to her for doing that. Thanks for Mr. Lawrence. If you saw him buzzing hornet, he and his students sent home Mother's Day gifts. Was that right? And finally, our honor day is going to be moved this year to 6 p.m. in the evening on Tuesday the 23rd. So we invite you all to attend that. 21st. Thank you. Now for our student of the month, Mr. Keener, if you please come up. Seventh grade language arts and social studies departments nominate Joseph Keener as Beach Grove Middle School's May Student of the Month. Joseph excels in academics and extracurricular activities. First, Joseph is a great student. He is an intelligent and attentive young man who always gives 100% effort in every class each day. When he finishes an assignment, he asks for more work. Joseph is inquisitive and participates in classroom discussions. In addition to being diligent about his schoolwork, Joseph is polite and respectful of others. His manners and positive attitude have a great impact on the classroom. Joseph always seems to have a smile on his face. Mr. Thayer writes that Joseph conducts himself with a maturity level that is far beyond those of his classmates. His behavior and attitude are models for others. When he is not being a fantastic student, Joseph is contributing to Beach Grove Middle School's robotics club. He is a great asset to the robotics team. Joseph was a jack of all trades. He was good at driving the robot, building the robot, and programming the robot. Mrs. Samber describes Joseph as an absolute great team player. Joseph is a pleasure to have
Mr. Pugh is representing South Grove Intermediate tonight.
Good evening. As Dr. Bear said, my name is Lynn Pugh. I'm the assistant principal at South Grove. Ms. Reed is currently cheering on her daughter in sectionals for track. I told Ms. Reed that her daughter truly was as fast as she appeared to be. She might be able to make it back with it. The only reason she's not back yet is probably because she hasn't ran. Quick update on what's going on in South Grove. It's been a busy last couple of weeks for us as we wrap up the school year. Last week we hosted the rising fourth graders from Central as they came over and toured the school. Kids were very well behaved, and we're looking forward to having those kids at school with us next year. Last night our sixth grade band and choir put on their end of the year concert, and it was great to see the progress that they've made in their performance. We appreciate their instructors working with them, as well as we had an almost packed house standing room only for the performance. Today we had a PBIS celebration for our student body. A variety of activities, with the highlight being a obstacle course bounce house. It's called a radical run, but students can use some of the points they earned during the course of the year to do a variety of different activities, with the big one being the obstacle course bounce house. Tomorrow, our fourth graders will be entertaining South Grove with the singing program. We will have two performances, 1 at 10 for the fifth grade, and then 1 at 1:30 for the sixth graders. Field day is Tuesday, May 21st. We do need volunteers. Family members are more than welcome to come and help, as well as any other people that have some time on their schedule. You can simply contact Ms. Hamilton and Ms. Brown at our office if you'd be interested in volunteering. Our fourth and fifth grade awards program will be Wednesday, May the 22nd, beginning at 9 a.m. And our sixth grade award and graduation will be Thursday, May the 23rd, starting at 9 a.m. as well. Camille Dilk. Camille Dilk is our May Student of the Month at South Grove. She is a sixth grader and the daughter of Anthony and Jessica Dilk. Here are some comments from her teacher, from Mr. Carney, her band instructor. Camille is a wonderful student in band. She is polite, prepared, confident, and a great role model for those around her. I can always count on her to do what's right without being asked, and have a good attitude about working hard, and to hold herself to the highest of standards. Mrs. Ray, her math teacher, said the following: Camille is a very smart girl. She is funny and very determined to be her own self. She is not afraid to take risks and question things. Camille demonstrates herself as a leader and a role model. Mrs. Wood, our language arts teacher, said the following: Camille is a great role model. She's a great person and focused student. She strives to achieve greatness in all that she attempts. I highly recommend Camille for this award. And finally, from Ms. Baer, her science and social studies teacher. Camille lives her life with integrity and is one of those students that stands out as a leader and fine example for fellow students. She can always be counted on to do the right thing, help others as a peer mentor, and participate in lessons in such a way that encourages others to add to the social studies or science conversation. Our May Student of the Month, sixth grader, Camille Dilk.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Next is Mr. Buckler from Central Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start off with a quick update from Ms. Hackman. She is in charge of attendance and actually will be reaching out to South Grove City to see who wins the competition this year, South Grove Central, with the best attendance. But she put on, hosted, sponsored an attendance week, the week of April 29th. Each day she had a different incentive or activity for the boys and girls who were there on time. Classrooms and individual students earned sweet treats. She went from classroom to classroom and read poetry. And then last Friday, we had a dance party on Friday morning for the boys and girls. We had 6 classes and really met the attendance goal for the week. Mrs. Weishart's class ran the pizza party for the best overall classroom attendance. And for the week, our overall attendance was 95.6. Our school goal is 97. Not quite there, but it was really, really well done. She's going to continue to focus on attendance next year. We all know the best way to learn is to be at school. So she's going to make that is our Field and Fun Day, and that will happen all day, second graders in the morning and third graders in the afternoon. And our awards program is on the last day of school, so lots going on in these last few days. So the best part of the evening is introducing Samantha Sargent. She's going to tell her she's our student of the month. Samantha is a third grader in Mrs. Major's classroom. She shares that Samantha is an incredible student. Her love of learning, and of course her love for math, Mrs. Major's math teacher, is what makes her a pleasure to have in class. Not only is she academically successful, she is also very emotionally intelligent. When a friend is in need of help, she is the first person to lend a helping hand. Samantha is much deserving of this great honor. In reading, Mrs. Ridgway tells us that Samantha is a kind and friendly student who loves to read. She comes to class with a positive attitude and works incredibly hard. Mrs. Ridgway always looks forward to hearing the thoughtful responses to the stories that she reads in class. In applied technology, Mrs. Pfeiffer states that Samantha is a great choice for student of the month. She is the most trustworthy student that she has come across. She is willing to assist her teachers whenever she can, and she is often noticed Samantha lending an ear to her classmates and offering a smile or hug to them. Her kindness is admirable, and her compassion is incredible. She gives 110% at all times, even when going gets tough. She says, "Way to go, Samantha." Finally, Mr. J describes Samantha as a student who comes to school demonstrating kindness and respect. He could not be more proud of Samantha, as she is a hard worker and is able to manage control of emotions and feelings, allowing herself and everyone else around her to be more successful at school. I believe Samantha demonstrates all the qualities of an outstanding student. I believe that I will represent her.
Thank you, Mr. Buckler. Just a reminder, make sure you stay after. Mrs. Stevens will get pictures. To finish our night off for all of our honors, it will be Mrs. Progress from Hornet Park.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Erin Provis, the principal at Hornet Park. I'm so excited that you're here with us this evening. I wanted to lead with our guiding philosophy at Hornet Park, and that is that we love our students first, and then we teach them what they need to know to be successful in the next grade and as adults. So tonight I want to add our third piece to that puzzle. Third is we want to pause and celebrate the wonderful things that kids and students, and the adults are doing. And so we've now entered that time of the year. So I wanted to highlight
quickly, I think some of the extra special award winners from Central has shown up. Trudy's probably over at the art fair. I guess, right? Trudy, why don't you come up? Sorry to step up.
You're getting an award, Mrs. Wolf. Come on.
She is.
I'm not presenting yet.
She goes, oh.
Judy has taken the lead on a school-wide Lilly grant, Lilly district-wide grant counseling program, which includes the implementation of the mindful moments room. And doing her SDS today at Central, it was just wonderful to hear the impact that's having on the Central Hill. Teacher after teacher after teacher talking about the impact that you're having on their individual classes. So a special thank you for that. Her classroom techniques have made a big impact. Her knowledge of current social emotional learning is evident as she keeps her staff updated on the needs of our students. She has a passion for making a difference. And again, Trudy, we just want to thank you for everything that you do, the impact you're making at Central, and appreciate your hard work and your dedication. I'll let Mr. Butler pass this over to you, Mr. Board Principal.
And then we'll do the student of the month. I promise that's next.
Part of our strategic planning process is really trying to get the board informed of all the different needs of the district, from increasing teacher salaries to working on all types of facilities and a special emphasis on early childhood education. And I think it's always very, very practical to have the practitioners in the classroom, the ones that are using the facilities, come and speak. Being a Ball State grad and growing up in Indianapolis, I'm kind of a Dave Letterman fan, but most nights I couldn't stay up that late. So I asked our Performing Arts Department and our Agri-Science Department come and just talk very briefly tonight on the 10 reasons why we need the upgrades to the facilities as they would affect them. So that's what they're here for, and then we'll jump into Trudy's presentation. The board, if you have any questions, you can ask them along the line. But we'll go first, let's go, since A comes before B and band or performing arts, we'll go with Agri-Science first. And they're color coordinated in the same place. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them
Okay.
what grade level, et cetera.
Thank you. So for those of you that may or may not know me, I am Clinton Bullock. I am one of the high school ag teachers here at Beech Grove High School. I also have my other two colleagues with me that are teachers at the middle school, Craig Whitty and Mr. Sam Lawrence. So it is a 4-teacher program, for those of you that might be previously unaware. We have an Ag Advisory Board meeting that meets 3 times each year. And at the Ag Advisory Board meeting, Dr. Kaiser asked for us to put together a list for top reasons of a greenhouse. And initially he asked for a list of 10. And as we started to develop the list and think about it, when it comes of ways that we can improve student learning, we can come up with a list with hundreds. So in realization that everybody's time is precious this evening, we have narrowed it down to 14. So we're a little over 10, but way less than 100, okay? So I'll do some, and then you guys can chime in and capitalize. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask us after we're done going through the list. So number 1, the first list that I came up with was brings a multitude of lessons covered in the classroom to life and have a lasting influence on students involved. That is one thing that we really like to promote with the AG program, hands-on learning in our classroom, both indoors and outdoors. Develops entrepreneurial skills. This is becoming more and more of a big thing with new state graduation standards at the high school, such as learning to manage costs or promoting products by selling the fruits of their labor, literally. Creates a sustainable fundraiser activity for FFA. With the size chapter that we have in the state of Indiana, we rely very heavily on our donors. And eventually that might tend to go away. We can only ask the same donors for money every year for a succession of so many years. This really sets up a nice sustainable fundraiser. Provides an investment that will last for years. This is not something that is a consumable. It is infrastructure, so it will be here for well beyond even our careers. Promotes agri-science, FFA, and life science departments. So not just an agri-science thing, also the life science department. Provides another pathway for graduation requirements. Adds another avenue for SAE, which stands for Supervised Ag Experience. This is something our students do as a summer school program that allows them to get high school credit, and also satisfies a requirement towards their state degree for FFA, which is the last and most final degree they can get. Enables students to conduct higher level research. Sparks interest in plant science and life sciences. Allows students to explore potential career pathways.
Keep going.
All right, yeah.
I feel like I have to involve you. So creates community involvement.
With 7th through 12th grade students. For those of you that do not know, we do have a program now that offers courses to 7th grade students. Allows our facilities to match our potential. Provides a sense of ownership and pride in the school for students. And provides a place for special needs all the way to high ability students working towards a common goal. So that's kind of the list we came up, and if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them to the best of our ability.
I was just saying, just so you know, the high school greenhouse will be right outside these doors on the hill. That's one of our talking points of where it might be when we get it done. I don't want to say if we get it done, when we get it done. It's all about the timing of it. But we think it would just have a tremendous impact. I think what Ethan Smiley, for example, and others could do is we had a research live research lab for that. And just very quickly talk about the middle school and how that would really focus on that age group and what you guys would do with that.
I think one of the things is just the potential. 7 years ago we started this program, and I mean, honestly, I had questions. We're starting agriculture in an urban setting. Is that going to work? And every year we go to our state convention, and we come home with not just one state championship, but in middle school alone last year we had 4 state championships in different areas. And the potential's there from our students. It's not any different from being in a rural school to being in an urban school. We've got the potential and we've got the numbers. We're one of the largest programs in the state of Indiana. A 4-teacher program, there's only a few of those that are that big. Most are just one teacher trying to get everything done, and we've got a team of 4. And is there a need for with the students? Yes. Incredible need for it for the students. You mentioned Ethan Smiley is one great example. He's going off and doing botany, and he's never even had, a working environment. He's learned about it out of books and going through camps and stuff like that. And I think that comes back to our potential that is here and the numbers that are here, from multiple state championships and agri-science awards and plant science, that if we have a facility to meet those needs of those students' potential, I just think that I'm kind of excited about where that could go.
I was thinking we had a cost estimate of those 2 types of sites within our packets, but it was on the.
Yeah, I talked to Jerry today. I will tell you, and maybe help me out. I want to say the middle school is going to be a couple $100,000 and change. The high school a little bit more than that because of the site. Jerry just didn't have time to get all that together, but it's going to be in that $200,000 to $300,000 range. And there's a variety of ways we can fund that, do that. We can talk about that over the next couple of weeks, but we just thought it was important they came and talked about from a practitioner standpoint how it would be utilized, because you might think, well, greenhouses in an urban setting, as they said, we probably have one of the largest programs, probably per capita in the country, based on the number of students and the involvement. High school class schedules are totally full for next year. Middle school, we started a 7th grade program this year and 8th grade, so we've got numbers galore. So it's an exciting time.
No, it's absolutely necessary. I know everybody wants it to happen, so I know I'm speaking for everybody, but I know we've talked about this before. We're on board with this as well, so. Thank you, guys.
Corey?
I guess I need to go to the microphone. I just sound much more official over here. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your support of our music department over the years. The new facility has been fantastic. I know we haven't got a chance to kind of follow up and touch base about that. Right now, there are 25 guard kids, and they're having guard rehearsal, guard tryouts, literally every single night of the week. This week and most weeks, that room is used, and we talked about that. But it's just used every single night for kids doing some performance activities. So it's fantastic. I really appreciate it. I want to talk about the advantages of potentially expanding our practice facility and potentially adding some field turf to the high school football field and what that would bring to the music department. I've kind of listed it. Dr. Kaiser asked to kind of do a top 10. I feel like their words were a lot fancier than mine. Most of these you probably could figure out, but some of them is more of a did you know, because I think there's maybe some misinformation that you don't realize sometimes what we do. One of the big things is since we added the street on the south end of our campus, we actually have people, believe it or not, that love to drive through our rehearsal space where it is right now. So the idea of when I talk to my staff about, what it'd be like to move our rehearsal space, everyone right away is like, so we wouldn't have to worry about cars potentially, we're never extremely scared for the safety of our students. Most people drive through slowly, but sometimes they weave through our equipment and they weave through our kids, which in the middle of a rehearsal, I think you could probably understand is a little bit frustrating. The parking lot creates a couple other disadvantages in that you wouldn't believe how many times I start off a rehearsal trying to find the owner of a blue Chevy Tahoe, and that's parked like in the middle of our 50-yard line. And so we start off sometimes in volleyball games and trying to figure out who owns vehicles. I mean, if you can imagine being a basketball coach or a football coach and starting your practice off with a vehicle parked in the middle of your
practice facility. It's frustrating, it really is. So some changes to that, I think, could be very beneficial to our program, obviously. There's some lighting concerns out there in that the lights, actually, Mr. Lamb's daughter is my drum major, and she actually ordered on Amazon last year some light-up gloves. Sir, so that the kids could see and the dark spot where she's at, they can actually see her directly. So those are some facility things that would be beneficial if we kind of change some things up. A little bit of safety concerns. Our team does a great job of replacing potholes and some cracks and stuff in that parking lot, but it's an older parking lot that get used a lot now. So every year, just not a great surface as it's aged for the marching arts. I mean, there's a little bit of a safety concern for our kids to be out there with a 35-pound tube in their hand and running across surfaces that, you know, have gravel filled in, or maybe need some, just have some potholes that we're avoiding. So there's obviously a lot of advantages there. From a performance aspect, a couple did you knows in that last year's football games. I know a lot of you try to attend some of the home football games, and I see a lot of you there, but we actually didn't perform at any home football games last year on the grass. We every single game we performed on the track and just kind of stood there and played the music for everyone. And it's because the field was just muddy and wet, and we can't do anything about that. Part of that's Indiana weather and just the rain. But obviously it's a disadvantage to us in that we never really know how we're performing for that evening. Kids didn't get those performance opportunities that they would normally get. You know, even had a couple upset kids, like a senior night performance that there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, it's rain in Indiana, but it's obviously a major advantage to us. I feel like if we had field turf this year, we would have performed at every single home football game, and glad to do so, obviously. A couple other advantages is we could host a competition here at our school. Right now, it would be very tough to convince people to come to a grass facility. Believe it or not, we actually don't march any competitions and probably haven't for 7 or 8 years now on a grass field. No competitions that we go to are held on a grass field anymore. It's literally, it's all field turf. And we could host a competition and actually raise some funds for our program if the parking was expanded as well. That could really benefit us. That'd probably take a few years to organize and to really do some thinking and planning to do it effectively. But it's how a lot of programs around here bring a major benefit to the organization by hosting a band contest on a day. You can actually, it can be a financial benefit to your program that we'd be excited to attempt. Besides that, you know, every year for the last 7 or 8 years now, we've had the Cavalier group come in to Beech Grove, which is a big advantage to our kids as well. They get to see a world-class group. They provide tickets for my kids to go to World Championships and watch the performances. They also, they do a donation to our music department financially. They actually buy a gift certificate through Pages Music, our local music organization, usually $2,500, $3,000 for our band program to use just for them to be in here. They've actually left the last 2 years and they haven't practiced on our facilities. They go to DePaul University. So they stay here and they travel out to DePaul and do their daily practices so that they can rehearse on truthfully just a turf field that they don't really want to take the chance of just moving on a facility that creates some challenges for the performing arts. I think that was about 10 things. I really just wanted to share with you some of the advantages. Once again, say thank you for supporting our program. Give you an opportunity to ask me any questions about what else that would look like for our program, anything else you could think of. I'd be glad to answer questions from you.
I'll just make a comment. If you're here in the fall, during the week, they're going a couple nights a week. You've got soccer a couple nights a week. You got football, and when we talk about both I hate calling it football stadium because band's on it more than football, but on the stadium. But you can't coordinate all that. You know, if there's a soccer match, well, if you do baseball and football, then football can be over there. You know, with the extended parking lot that you've seen in the diagram, that's bigger than the parking spot they have right now. It'll be well lit, so that it gives us a lot of flexibility.
I did forget to mention that actually our band practice lot that we're on right now is not the full width of an actual football field. We actually cut our show down widthwise and just always adapt to it. Sometimes I think well, but we do have a little bit of limitation on how wide
is. The new one, it will give you a 20-yard, almost a 20-yard to 20-yard in the width, that over the 5 acres. And I would just ask you, as we move forward with this discussion over the next, month, think about that and the coordination and all of that. It's a real challenge getting in that time for our kids. And on June 4th, we're going to take a tour, and our phys ed department and our athletic department will come and do a very short, brief presentation during dinner because, again, it's important that you guys hear from the people that use it. And, I love going to the competitions in Plainfield and Southport and those other places where they can do it under any weather circumstance. The one thing they helped correct me, I thought, hey, on Saturdays we could bring in youth football. We can't have youth football on that field on Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons because they're going to be practicing. That's how much time they spend in their craft. And if we're able to, do this moving forward, it's going to just give us a lot of variety. And I'll say it again, people shop facilities. Getting the right people to move into Beech Grove is an important thing when we start talking about facilities long term. So, any other questions or feedback?
Having practiced most of my marching band years on a parking lot, I sympathize with asking people to move their vehicles and not run over you and
So we're getting smarter
the night
about that.
times and stuff, so.
I literally put a team out on the practice lot about 5 o'clock. I get a group of kids and just start helping with traffic. And if people are parking, like we park cars at home volleyball games to help people not park in that parking lot is really what we do to try to, and we have some blockers and barricades and cones we try to put out as well, but it's an effort, it really is.
It is, and it's a challenge to share that small space and not turn an ankle and not run into stuff, and I get it, I understand.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it is my honor to introduce Trudy Wolf. I think we all know her, but I think I'll reiterate what Dr. Kaiser said about this morning when we were at Central Elementary for our end of the year meeting. Just to their staff about the positive attributes she's really hit there at Central. And the neat thing is that it's trickling down to Orton Park and all the way up to the high school with some of our things that are being talked about in our Little League grant. So, Trudy, thank you for all you do, and I think she has a presentation, and I will do my best to poke you at the right time to run your slideshow.
Okay, thank you. I gave everybody a handout, and there's some information I'll refer to as we go through the presentation. Some of the slides I'm going to go through pretty quickly. I have 15 minutes, so. The Lilly Grant, we were very, very honored to receive. It was a very competitive grant, and we received it. So we are blessed to have the money for 4 years to really make a difference for our kids. So the next slide just lists the homeschool advisors and counselors who are involved. Steve is our administrator. Paige Anderson is still involved quite a bit. And she's still considered the grant director. And then we also have an advisory board, which is on the next slide. And it's a pretty large advisory board, and is made up of all the people that you see there. We're very fortunate to have a lot of support from our own staff, too. And the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about why social emotional learning and trauma-informed approach is beneficial and why it's needed. In general, we know that 29% of school-aged children are diagnosed with depression or anxiety. In fact, anxiety is often referred to as the next major learning disability. And there's many children that have the signs and symptoms who are not diagnosed because they have not received treatment. 20% of school-aged children live in homes with chronic or toxic stress, and that can come from a number of sources, but with our drug problem, homelessness, poverty, that stress, it doesn't go away. It's there every day. And statistically, we know that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by the time they reach 18, and 1 in 14 children are victims of physical abuse each year. And the next slide, we also know that 10 to 20% of children are exposed to domestic violence each year, and that has a huge impact. We know that this chronic kind of toxic stress does change brain chemistry. It even changes the makeup of the brain. And this statistics about CPS investigation comes from 2015, but 37% of children in our nation will have a CPS investigation of their family by the time they reach 18. And that's not just means that somebody called in a call, that means that somebody called in a call and it was serious enough for them to investigate it. I think that's a huge percentage. We know that 75% of mental health disorders begin in childhood, and 60% of school-aged children have been exposed to violence in the last year, and more than 1 in 10 are reporting exposures to 5 acts of violence. And all that impacts their well-being. We did a lot of data with the Lilly Grant, and I printed some of that out. To print it all out would have been a lot of paper for you, but if you're interested, you can look up here. The areas that are highlighted or in gray are the areas that show the most concern for our students. At Hornet Park, 49% of the students know the steps to solve a problem. So there's over half that don't know how to solve a problem. So you can imagine the impact that has on their social skills. At Central, with 3rd grade, we're able to break, from 3rd to 12th, we're able to break down the data by gender, race, grade levels. So 50% of our African American and our ELL students in 3rd grade reported they need help with managing their anger. At South Grove, only 47% of the African American students know how to keep their emotions under control. At the high school, they found that 34% are struggling with anger, 52 are struggling with stress, and 44 are struggling with anxiety. And at the middle school, 35% of the students reported that they are having trouble with their anger. One thing that was very, very concerning to Lee Lux and I, we broke down the data together, but with the middle school and high school, they added a category for gender of prefer not to answer. So these are children who are a little unsure about their gender identity. These kids are really suffering. You can see 92% of those kids report feeling sad or depressed. 42% have suicidal feelings. 83% struggle with stress, and only 17 perceive they fit in at school. Those children are at very high risk for mental health issues. These are some of the benefits of social emotional learning and trauma-informed school approach. There's a decrease in aggression and rule infraction over time. It's not immediate. There's no magic to this. To develop a trauma-informed school is a 4-year process. Over time, you see an increase in pro-social behavior. The last thing to really show an impact is usually the academics. Students report decreased anxiety, and there's improved student attitudes about school, teachers, and peers. There are some longitudinal studies that really show us the impact of social-emotional learning, especially at an early age. A lot of that comes from some of the Head Start programs. This is just one of the studies. They found that children who were skilled in preschool at recognizing and managing their emotions do well on the job, have longer marriages, and are less likely to suffer from depression and anxiety when they grow up. And so what we're learning is that students come to school to learn social emotional competency just as much as they do reading and math and the other academic skills. And so for us as a staff, when a child is presenting us with challenging behavior, we have to move away from what's wrong with you to what's happened to you. If we can ask what's happened to you, we can develop a sense of empathy for that child. We can look at what they need, and then we can build our interventions to support that child. Some of you probably remember when you went to school, you learned the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. With trauma-informed school approach, we're adding 3 more R's: reflection, relationships, and resilience. So for the Lilly grant, it was a school counseling program grant, and it had two purposes. One was they wanted schools to build a comprehensive school counseling program. The second part was they wanted it to support the well-being of students. So the school year of 16 to 17, the Lilly grant was a planning grant. If you filled out a grant proposal and you filled it out right, you were awarded a certain amount of money based on the number of students you had. A school our size was a $30,000 grant, and that's what we received. So we were able to use that money to explore programs, to research things, to attend conferences, to visit schools even in other states to see what they're doing. And then the second part was we had to write another grant proposal that was called an implementation grant. It was very competitive. We did not receive it the first time. But Lilly saw there was truly a need for schools to meet the social emotional needs of their students. So they opened up a second round. We were successful that time. So we were awarded in July a grant for $259,000. So the Lilly grant has these requirements. It had to be a district grant. It couldn't just be one school in a district. It had to be a district grant with a district focus. It had to focus on the well-being of the student. And it had to involve school personnel, community members, and it had to build a comprehensive school counseling plan. It had to be data-driven. So we just can't say we think our kids need this. We had to know what they need. And it had to be sustainable. Lilly didn't want a school just to have a lot of programs, and then when the 4-year period is up, everything falls apart because the school district cannot afford to keep it. So we wrote a grant that put a lot of money up front to equip our staff to carry on the work after the grant ends. Our priority goal 1 was to develop our comprehensive school counseling program. So we did that. You're probably familiar with the standards that our Department of Education has for academics. As school counselors, we have standards too, but they're called competencies for students. And a comprehensive school counseling program is expected to use data to drive the program and to have an advisory board. The next one. So the second goal really has 4 parts to it. The first part was that we wanted a curriculum. Each school, especially at the elementary level, we do social emotional learning, but each school does their own thing. There's no consistency from building to building. So we wanted to have consistency, continuity in the curriculum we were using for social emotional learning. So at the elementary level, it's K through 6, Tools for Life. It's a program I've used. We got a grant from the Beech Grove Education Foundation probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a great program. We have that now, K through 6. At the secondary level, there's 2 programs. One is a GRIT program, and we have purchased that. It's in a share folder. And then a LEAPS program provides over 150 lessons, and it's something that we buy for the school year. Those are things the secondary level is looking at how they may implement or if they want to implement it. The last part of that is just for elementary. There's a program called PlayWorks. They teach children social emotional skills during recess. That's a really hot time for problems to erupt. And it's a way to equip teachers to teach students during recess. The second part of the goal is for us to become a trauma-informed school district. We have a significant amount of students who are experiencing trauma on a daily basis. And we need to understand what that experience is like for them. So in July, we're having our first of 3 all-district trainings, and it's going to be all focused on trauma-informed, understanding the relationship between mind and body and how trauma impacts that, and how to build courageous classrooms to meet student needs. Mindfulness practices is part of that. The Calm Classroom that was mentioned is a program that we have purchased because of the grant. It's and there's some really good data. One of your handouts is called 419 CC Summary, and if you take a look at that, it's not only impacting students, it's impacting teachers. They feel more engaged with their teaching. because of Calm Classroom. So you can look at that and see how beneficial that is. Our mindful moment rooms are implemented K through 6 as an alternative to traditional discipline. Instead, when a child starts becoming distressed and you know it's going to explode, instead of waiting for it to explode and sending them down to the office, they can call. And like one of the homeschool advisors will go and they'll take that child for a calming time. And at Central, we've kept data for a couple years. So between 96 and 100% of the kids who visit Mindful Moment don't have any more problems as far as office referrals for the rest of the day. Another part of the second goal is that we want to build relationships with students. This is the most powerful way to make an impact with children. And daily classroom meetings, K through 6, and then at the secondary level in the resource times that they have 2 times a week where they're doing some kind of educational learning with their students. We want to have programs for families, and we do want to develop a mentoring program. I think Dr. Keeley is already ahead of us with the Lilly grant because he's got some ideas about implementing something for next year. Our mentoring program comes toward the end of the grant. And then the last part of this goal is that we really want to improve access to mental health services. So one of the things that we did at the elementary level this year is we are doing trauma screenings. We want to know which kids have experienced trauma. And then there's a multi services that we can provide. There's a screening called an ACE study. It's an ACE study, and they have developed a scale to assess trauma. And for the kids that score high, with high ACEs, we talk to the teachers. Maybe they only need just to be monitored because they're doing okay. They have enough protective factors in their life that they're still doing okay. Some kids may need a monthly check-in. Some of the kids may need to be in a small group. Some of the kids may need to facilitate a referral to adult and child. Okay, and the next one. So this is what we've done so far this school year. We have implemented the trauma screenings K through 6 with multi-tiered interventions, the tools for life. We have purchased and we have been trained on that. I believe Hornet Park has started to use the lessons. We've used the lessons before at Central, and next year South Grove's going to begin using the curriculum. Calm Classroom is fully implemented K through 6. At the elementary level, it's expected to be the mindfulness practices are done 3 times a day. They're very short. They take between 2 and 3 minutes. It's partially implemented at the high school, and the middle school is a little bit late getting trainers trained, so they are just starting theirs this month. Daily classroom meetings, fully implemented K through 3. At South Grove, it's partially. Ms. Reed has a plan to get that up and going to be every day for every teacher next school year. And then the secondary level has a 2 times a week when they use their resource time. The Mindful Moment Room is active K through 6. And we also have calming areas in the classroom. So the teachers have a first line intervention when they start seeing a child get distressed. They have a box of calming activities that the child can do. So that's available K through 6, and then at the high school, each teacher has one. And at the middle school, some classrooms are using them, but not all. Another thing we've done at the elementary level is a connections assessment. We want to know which students are not connected to an adult in the school, because we know the relationship is the most powerful way to make a difference. So we've been able to identify the students that need help being connected, and we've been able to develop a plan with the teacher. At the elementary level, we've been doing professional development on trauma and applied neuroscience and education. And the middle schools had a couple of recent trainings there. We've been doing book clubs at the elementary level based on understanding social emotional needs of the children. We have built our comprehensive school counseling program. Our activities are aligned with the competencies that DOE has outlined for students. The only thing is DOE changed everything this school year, so we start over when we start in the fall. We have a mindfulness and yoga program. We hold it at Central, and it's available for families with students K through 6. So that's a lot of information, but I want to show you a sneak peek into our future, because at Central we have been keeping data. This is our second year. If you look, this is the number of office referrals. The orange line is last school year. The blue line is this school year. So you can see we're making a difference. That's a huge drop in office referrals just in a year. And the next slide shows us suspensions. Again, the orange line is last year, the blue line is this year. And then the next slide, this was completely unexpected, but we're seeing a drop in bus write-up. And we really didn't do anything to target the bus behavior, but I think all the things that we're doing within the school is making a difference when they go home on the bus. Another recent statistic is in the family survey that we did, their parents expressed concern about bullying, their child being bullied at school. And children in our school district do tend to see themselves as bullied. We do a lot of things at Central to help with that. I do 2 lessons in the fall. We have a family movie night where we educate parents about what is bullying, what is not bullying. We send a letter home every year about the definition of bullying, what to do when your child is bullied. And we've not seen really much impact of the way children are perceiving themselves being bullied. Like, it's been 40 to 43%, and that goes back from the spring of 2013. But in 2018 and 2019, we are seeing a difference. In 3rd grade, the percent of students who perceive themselves as being bullied dropped down to 32%. And then when we did the survey again in the spring, we're down to 18% of the students perceive that they're being bullied. I think a lot of that is the morning meetings, those relationships, that trust with the teacher. If there is problems, they're probably more likely to tell the teacher, get it taken care of before it develops into a situation where they perceive they are being bullied. I think the other part of that is calm classroom, because the children are calmer. And so maybe they're not reacting to every little thing as much. And so maybe there is less mean behavior. Into next school year, the same initiatives that we started this year will continue. We're having our training on July 25th. Because of the ALICE training that Safe School is doing, we didn't want to use a second teacher workday for that, so we set it up the day before the first teacher workday. And we still had 155 staff say they're going to attend that. And we'll rewrite our activities with the new competencies. And the next one. So the Tools for Life curriculum also has a family program. We'd like to implement that next school year. It's for the elementary level. We'd like to get the SEL curriculum implemented at the secondary level. For the Playworks program, we're going to be identifying staff who will go to a training, not this summer, but a year from now. And then 2 of our staff will be trained as trainers for trauma-informed schools. So when the grant ends, we can continue to train new staff as they come on board, so we don't lose the focus that we need. Some honors and recognitions. Central presented at the School Counselor Association and the School Principals Association about our morning meeting program. Central is working with 4 elementary schools across the state to implement a morning meeting program. Central and South Grove have hosted visits from other schools to learn about their mindful moment rooms. In fact, we're hosting Randolph County schools this Friday at South Grove. Our elementary level was visited by Christy Gow. She's the coordinator for the State Mental Health Initiative. She's very impressed with the work that we're doing. Central's Mindful Moment Room has been featured on Channel 8 News. The elementary student services team we have written a proposal to present at the School Counselor Association again in the fall, and it will be on our trauma screenings. Central is going to write a proposal to present again at the School Principals Conference. It's going to be based on our discipline plans and how we're impacting our our discipline. So that was a lot of information. You were all very attentive.
So in the June 11th meeting, the regular board meeting, I will be presenting a Boys to Men mentoring program. That is a 2-day-a-week program. We've not decided the location, especially, nothing over the summertime because there'll be some renovations going on. But it's an organization here in central Indiana, brought to us through Pike High School, Pike Township, and then it's over in Lawrence Township. It's something my son's involved in, and so my son will actually end up being the lead teacher here at the district 2 nights a week, where they reach out to 20-somethings, and they bring them in and graduates of the program, and they bring them in, and then we offer that to, I think it was 5th, 6th, 7th grade? I don't know if 8th grade. No, it goes all the way up to 9th. Yeah, all the way to 9th. So, yeah, so 5th through 9th grade. So that's kind of what we're going to focus. So I'd like maybe a proposal to think about considering that in September. So that's the mentoring piece that fits in with all of this.
I think you can tell her passion for
Absolutely.
counseling, the grant itself. When I go home to get to bed, sometimes she'll send 5 or 6 emails already on things. So I know what she does when she gets home. So just thank you, Trudy, for all you've done. It's neat to see it progress in K-12.
Thank you.
You want to do me or you?
Right.
I'll be real quick so we don't take too long. As you, I know in the report, a newsletter was mailed to Bgsn people on April 23rd, and it was targeted to households with mainly of 3 letters, to be honest with you, that one. The back to school letter will be in the form of an e-newsletter, trying to please my financial people to not spend as much money, so it'll be e-newsletter, and it'll be easy for like Steph and others to send that link. And we have new students and all that, so that'll be great. As you just heard tonight, there's numerous end-of-year events happening. All year long, I wish I could tell myself that at the end of school is actually good, because there's so many events. I try to make as many as I can. I hope that you have a retiree reception on your calendar. It's this Monday, the 20th, from 3 to 5 in this room. So come and honor our retirees from these programs schools. For the Education Foundation, thanks to Ms. King, she was a first-time reviewer this time.
It was exciting.
And it's
Fun
really
to give out money and to great programs and stuff.
It's a neat process.
Yeah.
So the grant review group did that. We gave grants totaling almost $10,000, and I notified all the teachers over the weekend to let them know that they received those grants. So it's exciting things, but good use of money. And just so you know too, especially for those of you who are new, the foundation also gives a $10,000 grant to Donors Choose, which really makes it, teachers that apply for that, it really gives us more than $20,000 in total grant dollars for those teachers, so it's a really great thing. And as you know, the disregard show took place this evening at Cornet Park Community Center, and that's sponsored by the Education Foundation. I want to say special thanks to TCU for providing gift cards, Primo South, and I forgot one on here, excuse me, but our own, very own Charles donated 40 dozen cookies. So that was great, so I appreciate all of those donors.
How many, 40 dozen?
40 dozen.
And they were
gone
they
by
what?
the time that Jill got there.
They were
gone by
by
the time I got here.
5:30 maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
Dr.
they
Frederick,
go,
like 2 dozen or so.
they go. If Steve would pile up his plate, that would
And
do
no
it.
donut, or no cookies. I should have said no donuts.
And I have to give a shout out, I want to tell you how impactful our artists are on our kids. Still has that effect. My son graduated Beech Grove High School in 2011. And the earrings that I'm wearing tonight, he made them in his art class. I sent him a selfie this morning, said, look what I'm wearing. I love these earrings desperately, I just love them. And
a lot.
And that's just the highlight.
I just, I kind of got out of order a little bit. Curriculum update, you want, is,
I think
more?
we're pretty good. We've got a report there for you. You can read on your own, but,
Okay.
I think Trudy's presentation kind of sums up some of the really neat initiatives going on in our building.
Yes. So we'll move on to, we need a motion to approve the April 9th minutes.
I move.
Okay, thank you,
second.
Jill.
I'll second.
And Beth, I think. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we need a motion to approve the claims for May as presented in our board packet homework.
I'll make that motion.
Aaron? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Rob? Thank you.
I have a
And-
request.
Yes.
When we get all of our information, that all of that still comes sideways.
It comes
and
sideways.
We can't read it. Can we fix it so that, what comes sideways?
The
All
claims.
claims.
They're late, they're,
The claims, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know the personnel's coming correctly.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, we can do that.
so the claims, yeah. I'll have Kathy
It's not near as
figure it
bad
out.
as it used to be, though.
I can do it.
Oh, you can't?
You can do it through the copier.
Kathy, I can
Copier
figure out.
can dictate that.
Because I agree, because you kind of get to where you're sort of reading.
I used to not be able to,
I
but
can't-
for some reason.
Can't tilt the computer.
I do, well,
To approve
okay.
the minutes,
Because I use my iPad, though, I just turn it the other way.
me,
Jill and Beth.
Ben.
Jill, okay.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I'm making a note of that, right?
Thank you. Okay, we had a motion to approve by Aaron, seconded by Rob. Had some discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. We have no public for public comment. Business updates.
Our food service vendor is Chartwell's, and annually we do a evaluation, perform those along with Dulce and Holcomb. Supply that, supply a CPI, which is a consumer price index, of what they did, a lot of federal guidelines. Presented that, as well as a new contract agreement to the DOE today, 3:30, they said that we can sign it. So,
Yeah.
I'm very happy with our food service. I don't think there's any issues unless you have something for me that I could go back and improve. We still have some money to spend. That's the 800 account. And so we'll be buying some equipment in the kitchens. We need to spend some of those monies because you can only keep a certain percentage. So it's important for us to upgrade like a couple of dishwashers, you know, some things that wear out.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we're at, so that motion is there.
I move to approve the renewal of the food service management contract with Chartwell's.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on food service? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Chartwell's it is. It's delicious.
The next area is TCU, Teachers Credit Union, and I do apologize for the length of the legal documentation that does come with that. There's a lot of security, a lot of ACH guidance, a lot of information.
Is that this one?
It's 126 pages. It is in the hands of our attorney. They're kind of working a couple of little things out, but I don't anticipate any real changes. They're a good local bank here. They've been very receptive. They've reached out to our business department, have all signatures on hand, and things are going very smooth with that. We still anticipate a transition of all monies, deposits, and then revenue going into TCU beginning July 1. Any questions on 126 pages?
I'm not the expert.
I hope we got that all signed for you. Okay.
Thank you.
I move we approve the
Was
final
that a
documents.
10-year agreement?
It is a 10-year agreement.
No.
And Beth has made the motion, and we just need a second.
I'll second that.
Aaron? Okay, and I heard some discussion that is a 10-year agreement. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed.
I sent you a PowerPoint and a budget for the common school loan for the high school. The PowerPoint is pretty impactful. as you walk through there and you see bathroom stalls and piping and issues. We do have a considerable amount of black pipe, which is just kind of an old pipe that the hangers are really heavy and the pipe's really heavy and then they're breaking. There's a number of things we need to do, so I need permission, and I would answer any questions, or I would offer up our Dr. Liz Walters to answer any questions if you have any on the need. A good portion of that, not half, but at least 25% would be right above our heads in the science area. We do have walls that have been added to, like sections, and so there's a couple of roof decks that need some immediate attention. And while we do that, we'll get the geese off too. Any
Okay.
questions on that?
We need a motion to approve to borrow $2 million for the high school. Okay, thank you, Rob. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, I think it was Janice. Okay,
As you know, we broke up the 4 buses into 2 separate. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say,
I'm sorry.
well, was that involved in this?
No, no.
Okay, any further discussion on the common school loan? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Now, sorry, go ahead.
School buses, we bought 4, but they only had 2 ready at the last meeting, so we wanted to take possession of those as soon as possible. We have a spare that's out, and we have another bus that's having issues, so we wanted to get those on hands. So we broke that into 2 invoices, is basically all I did there. But all the terms are exactly the same. And we may have gotten those today. Dr. Barrett, do you know?
They're supposed to come today. I did not,
Today?
where was the central day, so I did not see them.
Okay, I thought maybe they texted you or
I
something.
didn't see the confetti back there, so I don't know if they showed up.
Okay, well, we'll get them this
They're
week.
supposed to, yes,
Is that
they'll be-
correct?
Yeah, they'll be here very soon.
Yeah, and that's very helpful with that. As far as any questions on that, did you?
I had the concern of, those are leases, right? So we
They're
don't own.
purchase.
They're purchases?
The dollar lease is what it's called, is at the end of it, we pay the dollar to buy. It's leased
Okay.
to own.
Okay, and are we, is it still possible then, you think, to,
I have $3,000 on the table, the transaction would have to be the same, but I can explore that with your question that you had sent.
just, I had asked the C9 principal and C9 instructor if they would need the diesel engines that they could work on, provide them a bus engine that the kids could take apart and reassemble. And the instructor was fairly enthusiastic about that.
And so the State Board of Accounts, it would, I mean, you can motion for that, but we're getting $3,000 for that. I don't know if they're gonna be willing to purchase that, and it may be too late with the documents that I've already all filled out.
Tom,
But
what do you offer
I
a
can-
suggestion? I think what we can do is go ahead and approve it, and then we'll work with Calster and see if they want to donate it back, because they can write it off of their taxes from that standpoint.
Right.
They don't really use it for much of anything.
And one was 20, and that's the difference, and why your question probably came up is that one of them was valued at $2,500.
One?
The other was $500, so it's just kind of, it's worth nothing, literally nothing. And there's been times in the past that it was such a rusted mess that we couldn't get anybody to buy them, and we've, put them out for sale, to the general public or something. So it's a great question, and we'll look into it.
We'll follow up, see if McAllister, what they do. In the past, they've actually sent them to Mexico, believe it or not.
What's interesting is that we bought buses for $3,000 in the past, that's what we've been buying. So you can kind of understand what we've been purchasing. So that's why confetti is raining down when we have new buses. So it's, the changes that we've had in the transportation department the last 2 to 5 years have been incredible to us, because it's been a long haul.
From facilities to buses, we've
Yeah,
come a long way.
but that's no lie about $3,000, that we have bought buses for that. Some rent, some used ones.
Sorry. Okay, we need a motion to
Funny,
approve.
but looks kind of fun.
We need a motion to approve the purchase of the final 2 buses.
I move to approve the revised school bus, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you,
I'll second.
Jill, and Beth seconds. Any further questions? Beth?
No.
No, I
No
thought you
further
did.
questions.
Oh, I thought you
Not for
seconded.
me.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
I just recently sent you an email because we just got the price calculated in a online federal calculator for school lunch prices for next year. And I think it's better to get that set sooner than later when it tends to be a pretty good number. So currently, I would recommend that Hornet Park and Central remain status quo at $2.60 for a wonderful full lunch. So that stays pat. And then South Grove Middle School and High School would go to $2.80 for a wonderful middle school, high school lunch. So it's a secondary price. So that is a 10-cent increase, but I think the calculator was telling us we were underpriced by about 9 cents. So that's what the calculator has told us to recommend. So I'd like a motion to approve 2019-2020 lunch prices at $2.60, $2.60, $2.80, $2.80, $2.80, all other prices, adult, breakfast are free, adult prices, everything else stays the same. So that's a reasonable price, and very competitive. It's all under $3.
Okay.
I move we approve the 2019-20 school lunch prices as presented.
Okay, and do we have a second? Janice, thank you. Okay. Any further discussion for that one? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
14, 19. Okay. Steph, did you get all that? I'm sorry.
I got it all.
Okay. Oh.
Dr. Keely, we'd be sending those to our principals so they can update those on their websites and things.
Absolutely, yeah, and it seems like late in the year, that the price index and the calculator doesn't allow for us to do it until May. So that's why it's kind of hurry here. I just didn't want to wait till June month, so I will forward that email. There. Thank you.
Still timing, so it'll be in the next.
Okay. Okay. Is that what that is?
What is it?
Well, welcome, who's ever coming in. Personnel update. We need a motion to approve the employment recommendations.
So moved.
Beth, thank you. And a second? Thank you, Rob. Any discussion on employment recommendations?
Do you look for any more changes before the next couple of weeks? In the next couple of weeks? Just curious.
Do I anticipate?
Do you foresee any other changes in the next few weeks? No? Okay.
No, it's a pretty quiet, I mean, it really is a quiet time in my opinion. A lot of openings that had all occurred usually happen in April, early May. Now it's life events.
Right.
Someone moving to Texas and someone else moving to Bloomington?
Yeah, and those are family moves and
Yeah.
spousal work moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, the market's still very wide open and very good for teachers around the state.
Well, we wish them well in their careers. Okay, no more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Okay, back to Dr. Baer for operations.
Operation is short, but just one thing I did want to invite all the board members to is our end of the year transportation celebration on Tuesday, May 21st, from 9:15 to 10 in the HTC. We'll have awards at that time from 9:15 to 10, and then shortly after that, between at 11, we're going to have a luncheon and I'm grilling some things. So.
I try to jot down when people say there's something happening at the school.
Yeah.
And apparently the 21st,
Big day.
There's a lot.
everything's happening all over town.
So it sounds like if you take that day off, you can just.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
so,
so if you're available on the 21st, in the morning,
That was 9:30 and 11.
9:15 in here, and then quick update is you'll see some big things are starting. We have a lot of projects this summer. Some of them we're doing, most of them though are the outside organizations, our vendors with our common school loans, but we will be starting a boiler replacement at middle school, and then also the high school pool dehumidifier replacement. So those are some big projects that are going on, and it's kind of overwhelming to think of all the things going on. All of the buildings will be shut down this summer except the high school. So our summer school for Point Park, Central, South Grove, and the middle school will all be based out of the high school. Is that correct, Mrs. Walters?
That is correct.
So the other buildings will be shut down for some of their projects that are going on, bathrooms, and et cetera. South Grove, not so much, but we figured since everybody else is at high school, we might as well send them there. They'll help with transportation, make it easier. So, but Central will be shut down, and for the 2 weeks that we have iRead, that will take place. The iRead prep for the summer iRead program, that will take place at the high school. So just quick
Is that something you'd consider doing each summer? I mean,
we'll see how it works. Yeah.
That's just interesting.
We just started doing summer school again.
Right.
I've talked to the principals about offering math and language arts, and they had some teachers that were on board with that, and we're good to go. We had, in the past, due to funding, we had decided to kind of hold off on some of those things, but with the support of summer school money by the DOE, we've been able to institute some of those, so we're back in providing summer school programming on a limited basis. Usually there's about 30 kids per building, but it's some of the students that need some of that extra remediation and preparation for success in the classroom. But yeah, we'll see how it all works out. This has kindly hosted and is going to take all of it. She's telling all the other principals just to stay home for the summer, and she's got the whole thing. So.
Clearly.
Yes.
I think I made the
Is there some logistics there of getting the little tiny, obviously first graders use a different sized desk. I mean, we just move a few things over. Is that what we're doing? I don't think of the high school kids' desks as being ginormous, but the little kids, I mean, clearly that we have to do some moving.
Well, I will say Point Park is doing theirs through the summer bus.
Oh.
We have teachers working with the summer bus club that will be doing that, so that works.
They will adapt and overcome.
Well, just like, those little kids, okay, so, yeah.
So you're right, even those second graders, it'll be.
They're tiny little people. Yeah.
So if anybody has phone books, we'd love some phone books.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
I have a question. In the past, Chartwell's has done summer servings, and it used to be housed through Central. Is Chartwell's doing summer servings this year, and if so, where are the sites? Because we'll
They
get lots
are.
of
I
questions.
just talked to Dulcie today, and she was going to coordinate that, but it sounds like it's going to be out of the high school again, around the community center.
Okay, so there's nothing going to be west of Emerson?
They're supposed to be in the parks.
Are they going to be in the parks?
That's what Tara told me. Yeah. They're just waiting on approval, is my understanding.
Yeah, so she
We're
said
waiting on
today she
approval
wasn't
from like
completely sure yet.
the food people, the state, I think it is, or federal.
The high school definitely.
What do you mean in the park?
Yeah, we always just got, because lots of people used to come to library events and
But
then
they
just
don't-
go over to Central and get the
Right.
lunches.
They
So if I have to
can't.
send them to the parks, that's fine, I just need to know which parks to
They
send them to.
they can serve out of,
And it's been very popular.
okay, instead of in the school cafeteria.
Yeah, we discussed going to the clubhouse at the community, at some of the apartment complexes. We can feed out of anywhere in the prepackaged lunches ready to go. And so, once we announce where they're at and the numbers are best, we look at all of our local kids. And they don't even have to go to Beach Grove, by the way. They can just be a resident of the area. They can show up and have lunch.
They just have to be under 18, right?
Under 18. And you can
18
purchase
and
if
under.
Yeah, if you're over 18, you can purchase.
Right.
But it's been very successful with Beach Grove Parks Department.
Great.
Because people feel really comfortable going to a park and getting food. There's still, I think, that stigma attached. You don't have to be free or reduced lunch to be involved in it at all. There's no
show up to the
But
park and have
people
picnic
still
lunch.
feel that way. And going to a park and then being part of the Beach Grove Parks program and getting a free lunch has proved to be very, very successful. It's been a great partnership.
Sounds like a win-win. Thank you. Okay. Bids, donations and purchases. We need a motion to approve all donations. Anyone?
I move that we approve the donations.
Thank you, Jill. And a second?
I'll do it. I'll second.
Thank you, Janice. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. We need a motion to approve all fundraisers. Rob, I'm sorry. Okay. And a second?
I will.
Beth, thank you. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. A motion to approve the crossing agreement. I think it all went around if everybody got a chance to sign it.
Yes.
I move we approve the crossing agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Aaron. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed, thank you. There was one on there, and I'm sorry, I know I saw it in here. A field trip. There were several field trips. Did we get those? Do I just need to add one in? No, there was one for, there was one for Ireland, and there was one for, going to Purdue for the summer.
Purdue University.
So-
Got it pulled up.
Because I want to go to Ireland, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Okay. Yes. So I need a motion to approve that, because I know it was in our packet. Motion to approve the field trips.
I thought we did. Oh, we didn't. Okay, I move that we approve the field trips.
Okay. Thank you. Jill and Janice.
Yeah, the one in Purdue for the FFA thing. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 days. I'm in on that one.
I
Jill
moved
moved it. Janice seconded. Any further discussion on our field trips? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, policy and guideline considerations. I don't think we had any. No community reports that I think of. Nobody said? Success stories.
I'll make a comment. We just completed our 5th S2S meetings in the building where in the past I've kind of gone in and asked 2 questions. Tell me your success stories and tell me what we can do to enhance teaching. And it's our 10th year for doing that. This year I invited Tom and Steve and then Rita and Mary. And I will tell you, it's one of the best times of the school year for us. We just get to hear all the success stories and what we've heard from the buildings, all the positive, especially with our content specialist changes. For example, a teacher's teaching math, science, social studies combo, or like reading, and wow, it was dynamic to hear all those things. And it was just a lot of fun. We just finished up Central today, and just a lot of neat things going on in our district, thanks to our leadership and our principals and our curriculum folks.
I feel like I've seen, 10 things positive in the last 2 weeks, but now I can't think of them all.
I should write them
But
down.
I know, we had the kids going to, or staff going to Florida to accept the award for.
Emily?
Okay, yes, and I don't know, but I know I've seen it all. I've liked it. I know we have great kids. Just drawing a blank, having a
It's a busy time of year. You
early
try to get
Alzheimer's
everything.
moment here, so, yeah.
If you see Rita Bass, her daughter Jordan had a baby.
Well,
Oh.
congratulations.
She's very excited. She's already a grandmother with one of her other stepchildren. And so this is Jordan's first child, and so it's pretty exciting for her. If you see her, you'll see that extra smile on her face.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Oh, and there's a fundraiser for Kathy Rodriguez's
I didn't see that.
May 20th, it's Hamilton. Do you guys know when it is?
I don't remember seeing that or hearing about that one. I will say, thought it was kind of cool because my daughter graduated this weekend. So there were just a whole bunch of kids in her group because she is part of that first year all-day kindergarten class of 2015. And it was the most largest class we've had for the, in that time period up to that time. But there were so many kids graduating on a 4-year program that I have known since they were in kindergarten, and I was so proud of them. And so I know that it helps. I know that it does. Getting them early helps tremendously.
The fundraiser is May the 22nd at Campbell's Highland. It's in Greenwood.
At where?
Highland.
Campbell's Highland? I'm not sure what that is.
It's like our old restaurant.
Okay. And it's a fundraiser for, I don't think I know her. I'm drawing a blank. Okay. Oh, and that's the 20th? 22nd. So that is next Wednesday. Okay, fundraiser next Wednesday. Okay. 22nd fundraiser. Okay. Okay, are there anything else?
We'll have a short work session just to update you on strategic planning, get you out at a very reasonable hour.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Janice. And a second?
I'll second.
Aaron? Meeting is adjourned at 8:00.